All right, recording started. This is the meeting of the CSI Implementation Group. Today is November 6, 2017. Let's kick it off. First thing I had on the agenda was a status check to see where we are. We are a little over 2 weeks away from code freeze for Kubernetes. So the entry components we need to make sure that we're making good progress on them. The API component is assigned to me. I see that Jan was driving that while I was out of town. And I'm going to be picking that up and driving that this week, and going to work as hard as I can to get that merged as soon as possible. Along with that is the kubelet changes for the volume attachment API. I'm calling that P1, but that's also high on my radar. Beyond that is the stuff that Vlad is working on, which is the business logic for the entry volume plugin, along with the required changes for volume source. Vlad, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I could talk about that. So the API changes are done. Jan took a look at it. They look good. They're building, et cetera, et cetera. So what I've been doing the last couple of days is actually trying to get an actual call to be made from the CSI plugin volume to an actual CSI driver. Right now, I've been running into little difficulties here and there, but nothing that has to do with the code or what we're doing. It's environment issues that I'm dealing with. But today, hopefully, if everything works okay, I should have my first call from that does a node publish. Actually, it'll be two calls. One will be to do is it not ID, but the identification service to get the version. That's what it is. To get the version, check that's correct, and then do the node publish. So that should happen today.
Okay.
So what I'll be working with is a CSI Mock Implementation, which is an actual implementation of CSI, but pretty much everything is mock that Andrew has provided me. So he's been upgrading it to the latest head version, and so that's what I'm working on right now.
Cool.
I think I'm at a good pace. Hopefully this week I should get both attach and detach. If sooner than hopefully later, and then start doing not attach detach, but set up and tear down, and then jump on attach detach as soon as possible.
Okay. And you're doing the separate PRs? Might be worth it.
I could.
Yeah.
All right. So
up to you. I'll leave it up to you. But I was thinking, like, if you get components checked in.
It's not a bad idea. I probably should have. Maybe I probably could still do that. Just do a PR just for the API changes, and then everything else get their own PR. So yeah, that's probably not a bad idea.
Okay, cool.
And then the other thing too, there's some gaps in the design that I'll ping you to get, or probably all of us, that has to do with discovery, specifically mostly about discovery, to figure out where and how what I'm doing will find out where the plugin is and get and talk to the plugin.
Mm-hmm.
A couple pieces of information that I don't have any knowledge of where they'll come from, so we'll have to kind of.
Okay. So just quickly on that, by default, you could assume that the socket is going to be available at some well-known location. I think that location was in the design doc. But moving forward,
it is.
But moving forward, we want to do the whole device registration API to register the socket. For as far as you're concerned, don't worry about that.
Okay.
Just assume that it's in a well-known location and use that.
Actually, that's what will happen. And now I did have a question on the design doc about that well-known location. If we are to support multiple drivers,
Yep.
that well-known location can't be a static location. It has to have some kind of parameter that associates it with the driver itself. So that's one thing that we need to figure out.
Okay. Sounds good. And we may not need to solve that for alpha. We could say
Okay.
we're just going to try to go with a minimum viable product and then fix it in beta. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Good.
That works for me.
So that is the business logic change. One thing I added in there, Vlad, was the kubelet changes, if any, for CSI volume source. I'm not sure if there's any changes required, but you could leave that as the last item once everything else is in.
You added new fields to the volume source, or?
I believe kubelet can be used to display information about a new volume or about any volume.
Okay.
I think it's like kubectl get describe persistent volume, and that prints out information about the volume. So I think every time a new volume source is created in the API, kubectl needs to be updated to be able to handle that new volume source.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I have coded in there to do a printout, if that's what you're talking about. That will do the describe.
Okay, then that's probably sufficient.
Yeah, I have that code in there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That should handle that. Next up is end-to-end tests, which are assigned to Luis. Luis, do you want to talk about this, what the plan here is going to be? Oh, he's not here. Okay, we'll revisit that next meeting. And then the final thing is the device registration API. Given all the other work that needs to be done, I'm going to punt this to beta. It's non-critical, and we have a lot of other work that needs to be done, so we're not going to tackle that for this milestone. Next up is the external changes. First up is the external provisioner. Brad, do you want to give a status update here?
Yeah, so I took the Flex provisioner out of the Cube incubator and copied it. I copied it into that repo that I created and just made it work by itself. I haven't moved it into the other Kubernetes CSI repo because I'm not really sure where it's ultimately going to move to. And I might it seems like I'll move it over there and then we'll end up having to move it back to external storage. But there's a piece missing around the CSI library that I haven't really, I've kind of just stopped at. You know, it'll be the library piece that the provisioner talks to. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know if we're going to use our own library or if, my guess is that what everybody else is working on will generate the library piece that I need, and then I just copy and paste a couple lines of code and I'm done. Or copy the provisioner piece into the attached, detached, external detacher that Jan's working on. I'm not really sure where it's all going to come together at, but it should just be like a little bit of copying when the other pieces are finished. But that stuff's sitting and ready to go. I just haven't hooked the CSI stuff up to it. I'm waiting on that, and then also waiting to move it.
Okay. Which leads to what Jan is working on. That Thatcher looks like there was a demo that Jan did, and it's looking pretty close to a good place. Jan, do you want to talk about that?
I haven't tested with a real CSI driver. I'm using just unit tests and mocked CSI driver. And the thing that is missing there is just the finalizers on PVs. And that's actually pretty hard to do, but I will do something with that.
Okay.
So it should be usable. It will attach, it will detach. It just won't protect itself from failures.
Okay. And how are you handling the CSI library?
I am importing directly CSI generated CSI code generated by the CSI.
Mm-hmm. And then you're just calling it directly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Luis has a unit test thingy that can mock it out.
Got it. Okay. Then maybe, Brad, you might want to take a look at what Jan's doing, see if we could follow a similar model, at least in the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Is it all checked in? Is it all on the GitHub repo?
Yes,
Okay.
everything is there.
All right, cool. Next item is end-to-end deployment packaging. This includes the daemon set, replica set for YAML files and documentation. That's on Luis. We'll talk to him when he's back. Next up is the Sidecar Container for kubelet registration and node ID initialization. This is something I'm working on, but I haven't started on it yet. And I will start on it as soon as the entry volume plugin stuff that I'm working on is complete. That is higher priority because the deadline is very hard. November 22 is our code freeze for the entry stuff. Next up are the sample plugins that Chakri is working on. Chakri, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I'm almost putting together the Flex adapter first so that we can have some examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it should be done by the end of this week, something which is solid for Flex. And I'm also going to try to add the NFS along with it. NFS, actually, one question is, I might have to do it next week sometime. So maybe mid of next week I'll be done. Or because I want to focus on the Flex. That way it gives a more leeway for us to test.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have CSI community work. Feed in your requirements back to the CSI spec. Right now, there's a couple of big open issues. One is the error handling, or the error model for CSI. That's a big pending item on me. I'm going to try to resolve that as soon as possible this week because a lot of people are depending on that. And consider that work in progress. And next up is CSI community unit testing and libraries. I don't think there's any update there since Luis is not here. Okay, I'll hand it over to Jan now to discuss the items that he listed at the bottom of the agenda.
Yeah, so just one thing we have to implement is alpha feature gate.
Yes.
Together with the API and validation.
Yep. Where is the alpha feature gate going to live in?
One file in Kubernetes repository takes care about the features, and everybody imports from there.
So the volume source is going
it's
to
super
be
simple.
But I'm thinking, where do we want to flag gate it at what level?
Okay, so the API has to be enabled at all times, but the validation should reject CSI volumes if the alpha feature is not enabled.
Okay.
That's the usual procedure.
I'll add that to the list of things that we need to do in the core of Kubernetes. Do you want to take on this change? Or would it make more sense to do
it in the first PR we sent?
Okay.
So,
okay, then I will add it as a sub-item for the API, which I'm working on anyway.
mm-hmm.
That is a good call. Okay, cool. I will take a look at that.
And then while you were out, we noticed that you created a bunch of repositories, but we don't have commit rights there, so we created new repositories.
Very nice.
We need to sort it out.
Okay.
Can we remove the old ones you created?
Remove the external attacher and keep the external attacher CSI?
Yeah, probably, or rename them or something.
The best. That should be fine. Let me go in and mess around with it and see if I can clean it up and rename it. I'll take it to do that.
One thing that both Jordan and Tim Hocklin noted is CSI driver names. we get it from get plugin info from CSI, but it's just a string, and we want to stick it into annotations. And annotations have very strict rules how annotation key should look like. So either we don't put it into annotation keys and we put it into JSON in some annotation as a value, or we ask CSI to clarify how the name looks like.
Where are we going to stick it in the annotation key?
Example to node ID. We want to have annotation with node ID with every node.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So we can create a generic annotation, I don't know, CSI, node ID, and the value in value would be a JSON with a map from driver name to node ID. Super simple, but it needs to be reflected in the proposal.
Do you want to open up an issue against CSI for that?
I think against CSI, I think I opened one, but I haven't got
no feedback on that.
I got something, but not helpful.
Okay.
I will look and I will send a link to it.
So
Jan, what is the PR number? I can also take a look.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, send me offline if you find it. I will also try to take a look. Give me 1 minute, so that way.
So the options are one, either in the CSI spec we limit what the possible driver names are, or that is not done, and the CSI driver name can be anything. And in that case, Kubernetes needs to be smart enough to handle that. And your suggestion is, in that case, we're going to. So sorry, can you explain what we're going to do in that case?
We will create an annotation with some generic name, CSI Kubernetes IO/node ID, and the value would be the map from CSI driver name to node ID, or the other way around, whatever we need.
So the annotation key doesn't have to be anything, doesn't contain the name, only the value does. But that all depends on how we use the annotation. If we ever have to have an annotation which is specific per volume driver, then we get into trouble. Okay, this is a good issue. Go ahead and put a link to your issue against the CSI spec here. We may not be able to get it fixed by alpha, but we should keep track of it for beta and make sure that we come up with a good solution for it, whether that's modifying the CSI spec to limit the CSI driver name or what you proposed.
So Saad, last week in the CSI meeting, right? Did you see that we actually added limits for the sizes of all that stuff?
I did not.
Maybe we can see if we can actually include that.
It was limited.
Yeah, we added the limits now for each and every. So along with it, actually, maybe we can add. Sorry, I missed it. Some bad connection seems like.
I was just asking. There was limits added to the size of all the fields.
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe actually we can also make this also one of the constraints over there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we can try pushing it on the CSI side and see how that goes over.
Okay.
All right, cool. Anything else we want to talk about? All right, we have.
That's pretty much it.
Sorry, what was that, Chakri?
I was saying the welcome back.
Oh, thanks. All right, cool. This is going to be a fun week. We've got a little over 2 weeks, so let's drive hard and make sure that we don't miss the deadlines for this stuff.
Yep.
Get this thing out the door.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.